Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Screen Weekly. I'm Marlene, and joining us today is Blake and Leo as we do the full spoiler breakdown of the Batman.
And this
What's he doing?
is to go even further beyond!
All right, Leo, so we'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts on the film when you came out of that theater?
Well, it took me a second to gather myself because it was such a good movie in general, like not just like a comic book movie, but just as like a suspense and thriller. It was like very good compared to like other ones that have come out in recent years. And it took me a while to even realize like I just watched a comic book movie. I'm sitting there thinking it's like seven and it almost gave me resemblance to like either True Detective show as well too, like in the way he went about like trying to like figure out who was behind the murders and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. It took me a whole like drive home to actually come to again and be like, okay, now I can start actually thinking about what I saw in the movie. Well, just the introduction of him, it's much like it's very like Halloween, like the first Halloween, like how it's a POV shot through his mask, looking at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mayor and the kid and the wife, and then when the mayor like when the TV screen comes back on, you just see him just standing there, just like so stoic and not even moving. It's very much like Michael Myers Halloween esque.
So, I mean, overall, like, did when it comes to comic book movies, right? Like, I think this is like the first time we've kind of left theater thinking that, like you said, like this isn't really a comic book movie. This is just like a great movie that happens to have these people in this universe. Because me and Blake, talked to during our non spoiler review, was that a lot of the time, like you're saying, like Seven and other crime movies, like I don't think we've seen this kind of cinema from a comic book nature, other than maybe like Joker, where like, yeah, it just happened to involve these characters in this universe. But how do you think they handled kind of setting themselves apart from something like the MCU, where every single movie is intertwined?
Well, don't get me wrong, I love MCU movies and everything. I love like Spider-Man, Avengers and all that, but they don't give their directors very like creative control over the way the story goes and the way it looks. Versus with this, they gave Matt Reeves like basically full control over how the movie looked, how the story was paced, how everything went. Like they weren't forcing him to be like, "Hey, you have to include like a Superman reference." And he's like, "Well, it doesn't really fit with what I'm putting together," and they're like, doesn't matter. You have to put it in there because it's going to reference the next movie. And it's like, all right. Versus like Marvel movies, like it's kind of forced to be like, hey, you got to put this in here so you reference. Like in Doctor Strange, you have to put this in here to reference Doctor Strange 2, and then in Doctor Strange 2, it'll be something to reference the next Marvel show or movie coming after it. Versus just giving the director full creative control to do what he wants to do. That's
Yeah.
why I think this one sets it apart from other comic book movies because he actually had full creative control over everything on the movie. Like they didn't hold back or anything like that, which sadly DC is known to do. Like
Yeah,
look what happened with Zack Snyder stuff.
I
Like
was
they
about to
ruined
say
all
that.
that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like, where was his energy like in 17 Justice League?
Yeah. Yeah, because they basically ruined that whole
Right.
trilogy.
Like, how did you guys feel with the portrayal of I guess Detective Gordon, because he's not actually commissioner yet. Like, how do you think like it's kind of similar to what like the Gotham series, where like he was still that gritty cop and kind of like going through that status. Like for you, Blake, like how did you feel like Gordon played out like compared to the other Commissioner Gordons that we've had?
I really like that we see him be more like a ground level cop, kind of going through Gotham and trying to figure out this crime with Batman. We saw a little bit of that in like Batman Begins, kind of where he puts the coats around Bruce's shoulders and stuff, but you don't really see it in depth. Seeing a full 3 hour movie where he's the detective, trying to figure this out alongside the world's greatest detective, Batman. It's pretty awesome to see, and I think Jeffrey Wright pretty much killed it as the role. What do you
Yeah,
think,
I
Leo?
really liked it too. I really thought it was good because I thought it was kind of weird. It was in Nolan's trilogy, like they didn't really focus on Gordon a lot. I mean, they did, but they didn't as much as or give him enough character development as I feel like gave Jeffrey Wright's. So I really was more invested in Jeffrey Wright's Gordon than I was in what's his name from the Nolan trilogy. I don't know, Gary
Gary
Oldman.
Oldman.
I wasn't really, yeah, I wasn't
Gary
as
Oldman, yeah.
invested in his story, and I like how this movie kind of gave everyone their own story. Where I feel like in the Nolan trilogy, it was just solely about Bruce. That's it. Like everyone else, like had a story, but not like it wasn't like fully fleshed out. Like I feel like everyone from Bruce to Gordon to Batman, even the Riddler, Penguin, Falcone, like everyone in this movie, like you understood what their backstory was and you understood where they were coming from and you knew
Yeah.
their story, which I really liked.
So I do feel like there was one character, like there was one character for me that like I felt we kind of not so much robbed of. I just felt like we could have got some more backstory as far as like was he the one that trained him and stuff. Like for me, I felt like I wanted more of Alfred. I feel like I didn't get enough Alfred. I don't know.
Oh,
How do you guys feel
yeah.
about that?
No, I agree
Um,
with you. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we maybe got not enough Alfred. I watched it again last night, and there was some scenes where I was like, "Oh, we did get more Alfred," but definitely, he spends a majority of almost the second half of the movie in the hospital, so you don't really get to see him that much. But him and Bruce's relationship in the movie is one of my favorite aspects of it. That scene where they're talking in the hospital and he's kind of confiding in Alfred and like um, telling him how basically important he was to his life. Um, for almost probably the first time that he's ever said that to Alfred. I think it was probably one of the most moving scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah. I feel like with Alfred, like they cast Andy Serkis as like a younger Alfred. So I was assuming there was going to be like maybe like a action sequence or something involved with him. Like when it got to the part when he got the letter in the mail and
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
the
pretty
bomb.
active.
I thought like a whole bunch of the Riddler followers were gonna like try and storm the mansion, and I thought, oh, okay, we're actually gonna see like Alfred kick some ass. But yeah, I feel like he was the probably the one character that didn't get a whole bunch of like his story fleshed out, but I do like what we got of him. And that sequence in the hospital where him and Bruce are talking, it's like super emotional. It's probably the most emotional in the film, like the most emotion in the film between the two of them.
So, like for you guys, like what do you think was the biggest twist in the movie? Right, we had everywhere from who Selena's dad was to Thomas and his I guess you could say bribery, right? Like I mean, he did essentially hire someone to kill someone just to save Martha's image. Um, like for me personally, I think I think it was more of the does he not type of deal with the Riddler, right? Does he know the identity of the Batman? So like I mean like for you guys, what was like the biggest twist, I guess you could say?
Um, I guess the biggest twist for me would be like you think Bruce's father hired someone to obviously like get killed because what they knew about Martha, but really it turned out like when Alfred said like no, he just wanted to like scare him. He had like a moment of weakness. He didn't even want to go through with it because once he did it, he was like, wait, this isn't right. So there's like two twists. There's a twist that you thought that Thomas Wayne is just kind of an asshole now, and then there's a twist back saying like no, he's actually a good guy. He just had a moment of weakness and regretted it. Also, too, the twist that the Riddler knew that Bruce was Batman. That was pretty cool. I didn't really expect them to throw that in the first movie. I expected that to come in like the second or third one. Like one of the villains of them would know the identity of Bruce, but I didn't expect that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there might be even like different takes on that too, because I don't even know if he actually like knew who Batman was, because it kind of
Mm-hmm.
like alludes to it that he might not know because he's saying like Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne. But then
Mm-hmm.
he obviously says like, oh, he's the one we didn't get, and you kind of see Robert Pattinson's like really good like eye acting. He just looks over and he's like, oh shit, I don't think he knows who I am.
Yeah,
And it kind of
but
like makes the audience think that the Riddler knows who Batman is, with the whole password
mhm.
thing where it's like, oh, the truth unmasked. He thinks it's Bruce Wayne. He thinks that's what the
Yeah.
password is, but it ends up being, I forgot what it was. But speaking about Bruce not being that kind of smart, he misses out on like a lot of clues in the movie,
Well,
and
that's
I
the
think it's kind
thing.
of cool.
I liked it. A lot of people aren't liking it, but I did because it's only his second year as Batman. So of course
Yeah.
he's gonna make mistakes. He's gonna
Yeah, so
not.
he's making
He's
mistakes. Like he thinks he's the
yeah,
shit and like and he's vengeance and he knows everything, but as the
yeah,
movie progresses, he misses more and more details and he
yeah,
wrongly accuses the rat like 3 times.
yeah. Because his rage is blinding him. He's
Yep.
not seeing properly until the end, and he realizes like, oh shit, I can't just blindly follow like my rage against the crime in the city. Like I gotta like be more focused about it.
Arc. Like as far as like Batman, we're saying it right. Like most accurate comic book depiction of Batman on the screen. Um,
Mhm.
but like kind of like some of like there was like so for me like some goofy stuff that was in this movie. Like one of the goofiest parts, right, was like their first clues. He's like thumb drive, and I was like, bro, like what do you think was like some of like the? I mean, we were like you were saying, Blake. What was one of the ones that you were saying that was like threw you off?
The kind of 4chan Riddler kind of threw me out a little bit. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
the
I guess it
TikTok
makes
Riddler.
sense. Yeah, TikTok Riddler. I guess it kind of makes sense and he's like, "Oh, this guy has over 500 followers." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay." I mean, I mean, it's fine. It makes sense, but it's just like a super ultra realistic gritty Batman and then it's like fucking TikTok Riddler. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or he like
yeah,
pops in on FaceTime and he's like, "Hello, you answered."
yeah.
Like, I don't know. There those
Like
are
I
like
don't
my small gripes with them. It's just kind of like
the
how the Riddler I mean, I guess it's just kind of his character that he thinks he's like a funny, like charismatic dude, but
yeah.
he's like actually a psychopath.
Like I would expect that out of the Joker. Like if the Joker was a villain, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. Like he's
Yeah,
like that. He's enthusiastic like that, and he's crazy. But out of the Riddler, when it was like the FaceTime and like the
yeah.
4chan
Well, I
thing,
mean, he literally was like this.
I was like, all right,
Oh, hi there. Like,
yeah.
hi,
But
Mark.
I was like, I mean, it is set in modern times technically, so I was like, all right. I mean, that's fine. I think it's gonna happen. I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
so
that's the
it's
only way they can
yeah, so
reference it.
it's modern time, right? What movie
Yeah.
did they go to? Did they go watch?
So that means he would probably uh they would probably been send like Shrek or some shit
Oh
when they
yeah.
walk out of the theater and his parents get killed. They're probably seeing
He
fucking
got
Shrek 2.
Shrek 2, the first Shrek. He got
They just
scared of
saw
the dragon part, so that's why they left early, and that's why
yeah,
they
they
got
left
killed.
early and they got domed.
They got domed because he couldn't sit through the dragon introduction in Shrek.
Explosion ones. Like, I'm like, out of all the deaths that were caused, from the Riddler, like, which one do you think was like, oh wow, they really just showed that?
Um, probably probably just like the bomb around the neck, because that's an actual thing that happened. There's a documentary on Netflix about that, where
Oh yeah, evil
this
genius.
lady planned, yeah, this lady planned like a bank robbery, and she put like this like bomb around this dude's neck. Um, I can't remember the whole story, but like the cops basically found him, and I think it just went off. So like that was pretty like brutal that they actually put that in a comic book movie. Like it's
It
an
was pretty
actual
wild.
thing that happened. So
Um,
but that
I
was
don't know, the
pretty
one for
brutal.
me was like where it cuts to the shot of the commissioner before he died, and he has that wrap box around his head and
Oh,
like the
dude, yeah.
tubes,
Oh
and they're like
yeah,
going in his mouth. I'm like,
yeah,
oh
that was
shit,
pretty
this is a
brutal too.
freaking Batman movie, and there's just
Yeah,
rats gonna eat this dude from the inside. Like,
yeah, that
they
was
said
pretty
that he
brutal too.
didn't they say like he didn't have a face or something, like the rats chewed off his face.
Yeah, like it was hard to identify him because he like it was his face was all chewed up.
Yeah, well, that kind of reminds me of like when it was like some medieval stuff, right? Where they would like put like the pan on the people's stomachs and like the fire, so then the like to get away from the fire, the rat would like eat the
Yeah,
dude's stomach. Like that's kind of
well,
like what it was, right?
that's kind of Riddler's thing though. Like he wants it to go back. Like he wants to basically like reset Gotham. That's why he wants to like flood it. It's kind of like a biblical flood. How he
Yeah.
blows up the seawall or whatever. He wants to flood the whole city to purge it of all the corrupt. So that's why it's kind of like a biblical thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's have
So
the rats eat out the guy who's been ratting on all this other
But
stuff.
like he had purpose with what he was doing, and like it was to bring to light the corruption and all that. Like at the end of the day, like I mean, like did you guys think, like Leo, we'll start with you, but like did you empathize with the Riddler?
Eh, kind of. I mean, I see where I see where he's coming from, but the guy's so fucking crazy. So I was like, I was kind of want to see him get his shit rocked in the movie. I mean, I get where he's coming from in terms of like, oh, like there's a bunch of corruption and stuff like that in the city, and like how he was wronged, like by putting an orphanage and the orphanage burned down and no one cared about him. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And I like how he mentions like him and Bruce are similar. Like they're both orphans, but like Bruce is completely different. Bruce is a billionaire, so like he didn't have to like go through the struggles of the Riddler, and how he had to like struggle through the orphanage and sleep with the rats and all this stuff. Like I get that, but the guy's still fucking crazy. So when like I still want to see him like
Yeah.
get his comeuppance or something.
Yeah. One thing I wish I could have saw in the movie is the Riddler just get his ass beat. Like I wanted to see him
Yeah.
just get freaking rocked.
Yeah. I love how he like messes up a bunch of his goons, but he's already in jail. You know.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
wanted to see in the interrogation when he starts hitting the glass. It's like in the Dark Knight when he Bruce like goes after Joker and
Oh
like
yeah, I mean, he messes
flips
him
over
up
the
in there.
table
Yeah,
and starts like beating him and stuff. He like locks the door. Yeah, he locks the door and everything. I wanted to see that. And I thought like the reference would be when he's like punching the glass. I thought the glass was gonna start breaking just to show how like pissed off he
yeah.
was. I thought it was cool. I like that he messed up.
I did too.
Can't just have a perfect hero every time. I feel like with Ben Affleck's Batman, I mean, there's the conflict of him wanting to kill Superman for like the wrong reasons, but like I feel like he got everything right. Like everything he knew, like he knew it was Lex Luthor, plotting something behind their back. Like he knew everything right off the bat versus this Batman who's young and fresh and doesn't have his all his wits about him yet.
And you can see him kind of changing. I think it's like a good arc of Batman. Like that's like right at the end of the second act. And
Mhm.
you can just kind of see that he's progressing as a character, and you can kind of see that he's not so hell bent on vengeance. He's been kind of changing into that Batman that the city needs.
Also shows the dynamic in their relationship that he cares about her so much that he doesn't want her to do that, because then he knows she'll lose a part of herself and then probably become just as worse as her dad was. So that's what I liked about that, and it calls back to when he's in the stadium when he's on like the scaffolding,
Yeah.
and like he tries to save her, and that Riddler like thug is about to kill her, and he uses the like I called
So
it the Bane
okay,
juice, like the
I
Bane,
call it the
the
Bane
Bane
Venom too.
injection.
Like Blake, like did you think it was the
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell it was. I thought he'd get like a stim from Call of Duty or something.
he
Stimmed
just
himself.
injected steroids. No, I thought
Yeah,
that
I
scene was
mean,
cool because
it's
he
probably
takes
like
he takes a full slug to the chest and then
Yeah.
just
yeah,
gets
It
back
had to be
up
like
right
injected.
away.
it's probably alluding towards Venom.
But yeah,
I
but that's what it's saying. It shows that he like, and that's another moment when he realizes too, like, dude, I almost killed this guy over her. Like, I can't do that. Like, I went against my own code. Like, you see it in his face when like he beats him, and then they get him to stop, and he looks back at the guy to make sure he's still breathing because he thought he just killed him.
I mean, he messed up the dude in like the subway area. That guy got messed up.
Yeah,
Um,
that guy's definitely in a coma.
yeah. Oh no, like 100%. I was like, um, when he's beating that dude up, they ask who he is. He says vengeance, and you realize that, like you were saying, right? There's this past between the Riddler and the Batman that are interconnected, but almost like indirect in a way, and that essentially they want the exact same thing. If you think about it, they want change, and they want to be that change. But there's two radically different ways, right? So,
was why are we so accepting like of a serious Batman now? But then when like Batman vs Superman and stuff came out, they were like, it's too serious, it's too dark.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm saying. Like, they're willing to accept this story, but yet they give Zack Snyder all this shit for being so, like, making a dramatic Batman story and making it be about vengeance. He wanted revenge on Superman for thrashing this whole city and then just being like, oh, yeah, it's all fine. He saved us, blah, blah, blah. But yet, you know, He tore down a whole city the size of Los Angeles in doing so. And everyone then was like, "Oh, no, it's stupid. Like Batman should just be happy about it, you know?" And now we get a whole story about him wanting revenge and shit, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is good." I'm just like, it's back to the whole Zack Snyder thing, like, where it's like, dude, they don't understand. It's like a similar story. It's just told a different way.
Yeah, his take was definitely more like these superheroes are like mythical gods and
Yeah.
not very realistic, and everybody's beating the hell out of each other. But it was like a really dark
Well, it
movie.
was his story was about God versus man, which is what I
Yeah,
really liked. It was just Batman, a normal dude, taking on a god, and I like that. That he was the only one brave enough to do it too. He would be the only one brave enough to go up against Superman, and that's what I liked. And everyone hates it because it's so Martha. They always bring up that scene and everything. I'm like, that makes sense though. Like
yeah,
I hate it. I'll be honest. I hated it when I first saw it in the theater. I was like, okay, that's dumb. But then when thinking about it, I was like, oh shit, no, that makes sense because it humanizes Superman to Batman. It makes sense, but
Well,
that's a whole nother video for
yeah,
another
we'll
day.
talk, we can talk in a retrospect and we kind of go through other DC movies. But I mean, we talk about that movie. Like, why was Wonder Woman in it? So Justice League can happen. But yeah, no, I guess as we close this up, Leo, like, what, any final thoughts? Like, what are you looking forward to next? From this universe, because I think we got some shows coming up, right?
Well, there were supposed to be two shows, but I guess one of them got merged. Like the Gotham PD show is now merged into the Arkham show,
Yeah, I
so
saw
it's all
like
going to be
some
one
creative
show.
differences. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hyped about that. Like I'm excited for it, but I more just want to see a sequel to. I want to see this Batman continued. I really don't want DC to do another thing where they just reset everything again, which they're planning on doing anyway with Flashpoint. So it's like,
yeah, and they're not even using. I mean, I get you get Michael Keaton, but they're not even using Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Lauren Cohen to bring back as
yeah,
Martha and Thomas. But like Blake, like what are you looking forward to coming from this universe now?
I'm excited to see more of the Penguin in his
yeah,
series.
dude. Can we
So
talk about how good Colin Farrell was?
Colin Farrell
I was
slapped.
skeptical. I was skeptical at first. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be a good Penguin. And then when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, damn, dude, I can't even. I didn't even know that's Colin Farrell unless I looked it up on IMDb. You know?
Yeah, he was awesome, man. He did great, and he was like kind of like the comedic relief for the movie too, a little bit. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like overt jokes like that he was making, but he was just saying shit as like a super Italian mobster, and it was just funny.
Like, and that was the funny thing when they didn't realize they were translating the Spanish wrong, and he's like, "You don't understand." Like, he's like freaking out on him, like,
No
"Habla
habla
español." You don't
español.
understand. Yeah. That was funny. I like that.
Yeah,
See, like I expected the comedy to come from him because his character is naturally like the comedic kind of guy, like Joker is, like just flamboyant and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
you know,
he's a goofball. I mean that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. I think coming Wednesday we're actually gonna start our weekly Wahlburger Wednesday. We're gonna have
hell
Blake
yeah,
back on it, Leo back on it. Something that we've been wanting to do for a while is watch this show. So tune in Wednesday for our first, I guess you could say, reaction of Wahlburger, as season 1, episode 1, and then we're gonna start, I guess, going through it all of the catalog. I don't know if we're gonna include Donnie, but definitely for
nah, just
Mark,
Mark.
just Marky Mark. Yeah, we're gonna go through essentially all his movies. So
We're gonna go through all his movies and then his rap album too.
oh yeah, Marky Mark. Say hi to your mother for me.
always out of breath. But yeah, guys, if you guys wouldn't mind, like, comment, and subscribe, and if you want to stay notified, hit notification bell. But that's it for me. Thanks, Blake, Leo, and until next time, let's be on the screen weekly.